Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to auscastnetwork.com for details.
In a world where everyone says hello,
they dare to say,
g'day.
Yeah, g'day.
Yeah, g'day.
Yeah, g'day. Yes. Good day. Yeah. G'day. G'day. Yeah. G'day. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Good day.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Good day.
G'day. Hey. Yeah. G'day. Yeah. G'day, Tim.
Yeah, g'day, Leon.
Yeah. G'day, everyone.
Yeah, g'day, everyone.
Tim.
Yes.
This is the first time in a year and a half, that we've recorded without seeing each other for a week.
One full week, yeah. Yeah.
I think.
That's true, actually.
We've had times where we've gone away and stuff, but this has been like, I haven't seen you since Saturday last week.
Yeah. I've not been in the house. I've been out.
Because Tim was evicted.
Yes.
By the house.
Yeah.
He
I
still
live on
pays
the
rent,
street. Yeah.
So
you
this
can find me on Lonsdale. I just sit there with a piece of cardboard. No,
Yeah.
that's a dark
That was
joke.
dark joke. So it's kind of weird. But here's the thing, though. Here's the fun thing. I've got nothing to say to you.
Yeah, not much has happened, to be honest. I studied Japanese a lot while I've been away.
Yeah, that'll happen.
The cat kept waking me up.
Tim's been living in Kim and Bryn's house.
Yes,
On
our
his own.
friend's place.
You broke in.
House sitting and cat sitting.
House sitting and breaking in are pretty similar.
Ollie and I, we get along as housemates. He lives a slightly different lifestyle to me.
Different hours.
Likes to wake me up in the evening. We keep different hours. We keep different hours.
You know, these are the things that you learn when you move in with people. You know,
Yeah.
you learn their habits.
I've definitely woken up to his face being directly in mine a couple of times. I could feel him breathing on me when I wake up. So that's been fun. Yeah.
Thing is, you're in his house.
That's
Like,
true, yeah.
It's his space.
Yeah. I think on Saturday he was very confused about why I was there because Kim and Bryn had left in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I rocked up and just started sleeping.
Yeah, another
there.
redhead was in his house, and he's like,
eating. He was very confused about it, but we're on good terms.
Yeah. The thing is that when he is talking to his cat friends through telepathy, he's probably saying, there's this fucker who keeps waking up staring at me while I'm just trying to sit there on my bed watching everything.
Yeah. So it's been weird.
You're intruding on his space.
Anyway, that's my week. Yeah.
No, literally, I went back to school. Actually, I did. I was going to say not me, but I did go back to uni this weekend as well.
Do you just do a week in each grade, and if you get through it all, then you get your dad's hotel motel empire? Is that how it works?
There's a scholastic decathlon at the end of it as well.
Oh, fantastic!
Is that what
I
they
look
call
forward
it
to
in
that
movie.
Yeah.
So I've been back at school, shaping the minds of tomorrow, today, and yesterday. Also tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, but like, you know?
Each day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Most of the days.
Okay.
One of the kids said to me the other day, Mr. Huxtable, being a teacher, should you really talk about Australia not existing on the podcast? And so I said, don't ever look at me, don't talk to me, and get out of my class, and I don't want to see you.
Yeah. Seems like an appropriate reaction. He needs to understand you should never question anybody.
Well, the thing is, when I say I went back to school this week, I also got fired. So, No. I said, let's learn.
Fabulous.
My typical response.
Yeah.
Tim, we have episode 50.
We're up to episode 50.
We've been building up to it for, I'd say 49 episodes.
Shiitake mushrooms.
At least.
Shiitake is a word I
was a long word. Did you learn from watching Spy Kids?
Yeah, no, I actually learned it at Woolworths like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, yeah.
So, no, we've been building up to it, and we've been fucking hell. We've been building up to it very literally with our Bushranger episodes, leading to a big dog. A
big dog.
Tycoon.
Woof, woof. Here he is, the big fella.
The man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the outlaw, the infamous Ned Kelly.
Edward Ned Kelly.
Ned is his middle name.
Yes.
Edward Ned Kelly.
Yeah, they didn't realise that Ned was short for Edward.
No.
They weren't intelligent
They
people.
threw around Nedwood for a while.
Yeah.
But didn't really.
I'd love to call my kid Nedwood.
Nedwood is a horrible thing. Now, I am currently teaching about Ned Kelly in school through a book called Black Snake by, I can't remember her name. Someone is doing the book that I'm
Somebody
reading.
wrote this book.
And it's pretty good. It paints a pretty good picture, a mix of fact and fiction. If you're into it, it's got some fiction-y letters.
Wonderful.
But so it's good, and which means I've got some current knowledge. Now the issue is that I was talking about with Tim is that I've got my 800 or whatever page 800 page tome by Peter Fitzsimmons about Ned Kelly, which is huge, excellent to read, but huge.
Yeah.
I've got other books here and there. There's resources all over the shop. If I tried to take all the information from all those books, we'd be here for ever. It would be the longest running podcast because it would just never stop.
Yeah, right.
Now, we've talked in the past about the fact that we use one reliable source for all our information.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep true to who we are. I didn't want to go off onto books.
Nah, books.
I don't want to do books. So I'm sticking with Wikipedia. Now, that means that the information you hear in this podcast is as good as Wikipedia gets and as good as my memory gets. So don't get too upset. The thing is about Ned, the most infamous outlaw we've ever had.
Okay, yeah.
We know this.
Yes,
Huge.
we do. Yeah.
That means there's a lot written.
That is.
Now, I don't want to push this episode for too long, so we're just going to talk about things. We've also covered a lot.
Yeah, we
in the other episodes.
Yeah, with Joe and Dan and Steve.
There you go. I was waiting for that.
Yep.
So it's going to be. I think we're going to maybe get a little bit more philosophical on this one, rather than fact driven. Who was Nedwood Kelly?
Yeah.
No one. He didn't exist. It was Ned or Ed. Tim, Ned Kelly.
Yes,
He was born in December 1854 in Beveridge, Victoria. Now, I say December because Wikipedia hasn't put a date there for me just yet.
So he could be a Sagittarius, but he could be a Capricorn.
Yeah,
We're not sure.
I might be able to find it if I... it just says December on this article. How did they... Okay, so Wikipedia's failed us already because surely we know the date. No, it could... anywhere between... He was born between January and December.
He seems stubborn. He does plan a lot. Oh, I think he's a Capricorn. Like me. I'm stubborn.
Classic. And as we know, he died on the 11th of November, 1880, at the age of 25. So the current age that I am at the moment of this recording in the year of our Lord.
Fabulous.
And that was in Melbourne. So listed next to occupation, bushranger.
Okay.
Now, they don't talk a lot about...
Could he put that on the census?
I think it's definitely on his resume.
Right.
But on the census, there's a box for other.
Yeah.
And then I think he put bushranger under there.
What about LinkedIn? Do you think there's bushranger on LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a whole community of bushrangers on there.
There would be.
Somebody
should start it if not.
As we talked about in the past, Dad, John Red Kelly, and we had Ellen Kelly or Ellen Quinn.
Yeah.
So his parents. Now, I don't think I knew this. I'm having a horrible time talking today. I don't think I knew this.
You don't think you knew this?
Hold on. Ned is Australian born. Now,
right. Yeah.
Which I think I've made the mistake before. And I think other people have definitely made this, but we talk about him being an Irish outlaw and he's Irish.
Yeah.
Now, his heritage is Irish.
Yeah.
I think he's first generation because I think Red and Ellen are, Irish born. But Ned himself was not, which is why I think I was having a conversation with Aidan, who we'll talk about a little bit later on. We were talking about, in a lot of the movies, some of them decide to represent them with the Irish accents and that, which they may not have actually had the Irish accent, or they possibly...
Still early days. A lot of people probably still have British accents or would... Not quite the accents that we have today, but they would have been maybe halfway between the two.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't think they would have had a full-blown Irish accent, but they may not have had a full-blown Australian accent. So he was born, as we said, in December. Now, he was the eldest male in the household. So we've talked about this before. Many kids. And Red died when Ned was 12.
Yeah.
So when you read about him, he took on a lot of the family responsibility.
Yeah. Stepped up to the plate.
He did, and he had to, because at that time, there was a gaggle of children that Ellen had, and it's hard work living in Australia at that time. Now, he came early into contact with issues with the law.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pieces of information about his younger days is only favorite because the name is funny.
Okay.
He had an incident with a man called Fook.
Fook. Yeah.
Where I think he robbed him, but yeah,
that's hilarious.
Classic. Thing is, that was mentioned in class, and I had to read Fook, and I had that thing where I was like, if I was in a class, I'd be laughing, but all the kids were like, yeah, Fook, yeah. They're very, very serious about it all. There is so much information on this page; it's hard to pull out the dot points that I need to do this podcast with you, Tim.
Yes, it's a skill one acquires over 49 episodes, let me tell you.
It is. Hey, I've done it for at least one. And
48,
as we always
48,
find out,
yep.
I shouldn't be allowed to do...
No, it's great. You're doing great. You're doing great.
I'm doing great.
Was Fook, would I be correct in assuming he was...
Asian?
Yes, Chinese...
Yeah.
Of Chinese descent, or perhaps a Chinese immigrant during the gold rush or just post-gold rush?
Yeah. And so... Look, I'm just going to use a bit of memory for Ned's younger days, because the other thing that we don't talk about when we talk about bushrangers is that documentation is what it is. There wasn't lots of it. We didn't know he was going to be the most infamous Australian probably ever at the time.
Absolutely.
And so it is what it is. So in terms of his earlier days, the thing about Ned that we've talked about before, and about a lot of I think the other boys as well, but very good with horses. Like, really good with horses. Yeah. So he did a lot of trick riding. There's stories of him where he'd come into town. He'd do tricks where he would pick up hats off the ground by leaning off the horse. He could ride a horse that, like, he'd never ridden before, kind of, and put it under control and that. Like, he could very quickly gain the trust of a horse, which is...
Horse whisperer.
Know, it's hard. Horses are hard. They don't trust easy horses.
No. They're a noble beast, but they're a skittish beast.
They are skittish, but they could do that. But as we said before, the police at the time definitely were picking on the Kellys and their friends. And there's a story where Ned was riding a horse into town. He was talking to a hawker, I think that was maybe what they were calling them at the time, the people that sold their wares. He was kind of riding into town with this guy, and he gets pulled over by one of the policemen, and he just says, "Can you just come meet me at the station?" Now, Ned had just served some time, some of his hard labour, I think, rather than a prison sentence. He'd just done some time, and so they got him over under the guise that there was some documentation to fill out to keep him out of jail.
Right.
But then the policeman was like, "I'm going to arrest you because that you've stolen that horse." Now, Ned's understanding was that this horse was one of their friends or someone who'd stayed with them, and that he was riding it and it was legal and it was all fine.
Right.
What the guy whose horse it had been had forgotten to tell them is that when he came to their house, they put it in a yard, it ran away, that kind of stuff. But that guy had stolen it. So Ned gets caught out for riding a horse that is stolen.
Right.
The thing is, in this situation, the policeman that pulls him over very roughly, supposedly, pulls him off the horse, tears his jacket, it becomes a whole thing, and according to legend or fact, he pulls a gun out on Ned.
Right, okay.
And points it right at his face.
Right.
And he fires the gun. And it misfires.
And
he fires again. And it misfires. He fires the gun like 3 times in Ned's face, point blank range. And it doesn't go off.
Wow, okay.
And as we know, Ned is not a calm man at times.
I think that would piss most people off.
There's a description. He's got a certain it's a certain kind of, I think it was Alexandrian eyes or something like that, a certain term for the eyes that he had, which doctors say, or the doctors of the time said, that when those people get angry, their eyes essentially go red. Like, okay. This is the kind of thing that people are saying about Ned and the way that he acts. Anyway, so he's getting into this brawl, essentially. And then a bunch of other people come in, pull him off and all that kind of stuff. But the policeman smacks him with the butt of the pistol a couple of times, like blood gushing kind of thing,
Right.
scars and things like that. And part of that story is that Ned didn't pass out. Like,
Right.
looked like he should have, but some theory around it, or some, make-believe stuff that I've read in this book that's fact and fiction, is that they reckon maybe he didn't want to give that policeman the satisfaction of saying, I knocked out Ned Kelly.
Interesting.
But the reason you got to talk about the pistol whipping and that is that on his records, his jail records and that, when they list scars and that, he's got these massive scars on his head that are believed to be from that situation.
Interesting.
Now, he didn't get charged with horse theft. Old mate who was staying at the house got charged with horse theft. Ned, however, got charged with receiving a stolen horse, which at that time is a pretty bad crime as well.
Yeah.
Now, this is a judge who wants to make a point. He wants to try and squash Ned Kelly in his larrikin style.
Yeah.
But the thing is that back in that time, so I think Ned gets sentenced to, I feel it was either 6 or 8 years hard labor. I'm sorry to all Ned Kelly buffs listening to this. I'm going off my memory. I think it's more interesting if I just talk about it in this way because I can't read Wikipedia that fast.
Fair call, fair call.
6 or 8 years or so. Now, back in those days, this is what I found really interesting. Again, stuff that I'm learning as recently as end of term and school holidays about Ned, and I've done a lot of reading, is that in jail at that time, or in prison at that time, your sentence, you had to serve that many months, I think it was. It was 1 month for every year you were sentenced. You had to serve solitary confinement before you did your thing. No matter what.
Before you did your actual time.
Yeah, so like if you, well, it may have been included in time, but if you got charged with something and you got 1 year in prison or that, you have to do a month of solitary confinement. If you get 6 years, you've got to do 6 months solitary confinement.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like, most of the criminals at this time were doing things like stealing horses or, there have been some other horrible things as well. But, Ned's being charged with receiving a stolen horse. He didn't know it was stolen. He's been charged with hard labor, but he also has to do solitary confinement. And it's it's bad enough that, like, they do what we think solitary confinement is. They keep them in a secluded cell and they bring them out into the yard once in a while. But supposedly when they're out in the yard, they also have hoods on, which is isolate, so that they're not meant to be seeing any of the other prisoners at all.
Right. Jeez.
Horrible. Now remember, and he's young at this point as well. We're talking about young Ned still. But what we also need to mention is, so in his job title, it really was his occupation because he was the apprentice to Harry Power, which we haven't talked about Harry Power yet. No. But another notorious Australian bushranger, supposedly not a great temper. Ned got pretty sick of it. Also, I believe Harry Power had bad guts. So that's probably didn't help with his temper.
Poopy boy.
But Ned, I don't think liked the way that Harry worked.
Right. Okay.
There was lots of stealing. There was lots of in terms of like holding people up and kind of taking from them on the road.
Highway robbery.
And Ned also didn't. Again, it seems like he really didn't like living that life of out in the bush, no warm bed, no good food and that kind of stuff, the uncertainty. So he didn't stay as apprentice too long because it just didn't really work for him. It says here, so that he was 14 when he was hanging out with Harry Power.
Okay, interesting.
So
that's something I definitely didn't know about him.
The Harry Power thing. So I when I'm teaching this, I am hammering in ages to the kids because it's so important to realize how young they were.
Yeah. Like
when we talk about Dan dying at 19 or whatever he was, or joining the gang when he was 19 or whatever it was, I'm saying to the kids, have you got a brother or a cousin or someone that they've all got someone they know that is that old, and I say, imagine if they did this. Imagine if they went to jail for this long. Imagine if they died at that age.
And all of this stuff happens over a very quick period of time.
Oh yeah, like the Kelly gang starting and then the end of everything is not long at all.
Yeah.
So I bring it back to them, and as I say, when I look at the age and see 25, it always at this current point it freaks me out because I am 25. So I think it's always important to bring age into it, especially when they're so young, when they're getting stuck in everything. So I've got the thing here a bit more about good old Fook. There was the altercation as he was passing the Kelly family home. Ned confronted him with a long stick, announced he was a bushranger, and said he would kill him if he did not hand over his money. So he robbed him of 10 shillings, and Fook said he chased him away. So it was a whole thing with good old Fook.
Right.
So I'm going to skip over some stuff, as I said I would, because you should go and read your own shit. There's so much. There's just so much.
Yeah.
It's 25 years of life.
It's a short period, but it's also a long period.
Yeah. So there's horse theft, there's assault. You know, he's put in prison and that. He had a boxing match at one point, which is something that's kind of interesting as well, because it was Wild Right was the guy that gave him that horse.
Right.
That he didn't know was stolen. And so after he was, put in jail and all that kind of stuff, rather than go and fight him on the streets, because that would have put Ned straight back in jail, they organised a boxing match.
Right, okay.
Now, supposedly Wild Right was like a mad boxer, like good at it.
Yeah.
But Ned had been doing hard labour, fucking like felling trees and breaking rocks or whatever he was doing.
So he's built as fuck.
Yeah, so he fucking like dropped bloody Wild Right and took him down. So he got his revenge, without getting the trouble that comes along with a fight on the streets.
Smart boys, smart larrikins.
He just gets arrested all the time for all these little things here and there. But as we all know, the big incident that we've talked about before is Fitzpatrick incident.
Yeah.
Now, really interesting thing about Black Snake, they talk about all the different perspectives. And I think when they talk about it, they add it up, there's I think there's tens of different perspectives from all the different people. Was Ned there? Was Ned not there? Did Ned come home at some point? It's all up for discussion. Right. All we know is that the Fitzpatrick incident is like the single most defining incident in them becoming outlaws.
Right.
Because it was.
Yep.
So for those who haven't listened to the others, the Fitzpatrick incident, there was a policeman came to the Kelly house to arrest Dan. Mm-hmm. Dan was supposedly sitting down having dinner and decided he wanted to finish his dinner before he got arrested.
Yeah, which is one of the weirder parts of that story.
It's a great part. And again, this is...
because the police officer just lets him as well. He's just
okay. And this is one part of the story. Some parts of the story don't even have Dan having dinner.
Yeah.
Some tellings of the story. So he's got dinner. Then Dan goes to get his coat because he's finally done with his food or whatever. Ellen's kind of freaking out because she's like, well, what the hell is going on? He didn't have a warrant. You shouldn't let him in. And Kate's there, Ned's sister, who's 14 at the time, I think. She's quite young. And supposedly, Fitzpatrick cracks on to Kate.
Right.
And she's like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
And then Dan and Ellen were off getting Dan's jacket, and they come back in. And the story that Fitzpatrick tells specifically, I think, is that Ellen attacked him unprovoked, hit him over the head with the fire shovel in his helmet.
Right.
And then there was an altercation between him and Dan, and he got shot in the wrist. Or I think he says that Ned came home and shot him in the wrist.
Right. Yeah.
What may have happened, Ellen may have hit him on the head with the shovel because he fucking tried to crack onto a 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And then Dan tried to take the gun because Fitzpatrick pulls the gun. Dan tries to get the gun. In that altercation, he gets shot in the wrist. Right. So it's not that Dan's shooting him in the wrist; he gets shot in the wrist that way.
I can see that. That's a feasible story.
Yeah, and again, there's all these stories about. A lot of the time, the story talks about Ned appears home and says, "If you ever touch my sister again, I'll hunt you down and kill you," kind of thing.
Right.
But Ned tells the story that he was like 20 miles away, like he was nowhere near the property. So it's interesting. From that case, as we know, Ellen gets arrested. Mm-hmm. Two or friends or people that were staying at the house get arrested.
Yeah.
Now, these guys were like, one of them was supposedly not there at all. What they think is actually one of the guys that were there was Joe Byrne.
Right. Okay.
So they think that he might have been there, which is why there's a bit of some theory. I say they. I'm talking very specifically about Black Snake at the moment because it's quite a good book and I'm teaching it. But they think that maybe the reason that Joe joins the Kelly gang, because you got to remember that Joe and Steve choose to join the gang. They don't have to be outlaws.
Yeah, because Steve's kind of friends with Dan, and he kind of
Yeah.
works a bit with Ned as well. But there's no real reason for them to join.
Yeah, well,
Or
Steve...
seemingly, before what happens,
Yeah, Steve had
there doesn't
served
seem to be.
a little bit of jail time,
Yeah.
but he came out and decided to just keep going for it with the boys.
Yeah.
But they think that maybe the reason Joe joined the Kelly gang is because he was afraid of being outed as the other guy that was there at the time of the Fitzpatrick incident.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, this whole thing goes off. Obviously, it's a huge deal because the policeman has been injured and he's, all this shit's going on. So the boys fuck off to the bush.
Right.
So that's the real true beginning of the situation and the true beginning of the Kelly gang. They go to the Wombat Ranges. They set up a place there. They have like a house. What they're doing when they find out that Ellen's been arrested and they want to try and pay for a lawyer, they're mining for gold. They supposedly set up a distillery for whiskey because that was one of the things that Ellen used to give alcohol to. She used to sell alcohol to travelers, which was illegal supposedly. So they've got this whole thing set up there. And then, as I said, Steve joins and Joe joins. They've got friends that are bringing them food and stuff. They've also set up targets. So they've got targets so they can practice shooting.
Yeah.
Ammunition is not a plenty at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to go pluck the ammunition out of the trees and melt it back down and make new bullets.
Wow.
Which I think is quite interesting. And it's in that setting in Wombat Ranges where we lead to another hugely defining
Probably
factor.
the second of the big three.
Yeah, and
one should say.
In a way, it's not the defining factor because it's not him becoming a bushranger, but it's the first time that there's death.
Yeah.
And the aim of what is being taught at school at the moment is Ned Kelly a hero or a villain?
Yeah.
I have a big fascination with Ned Kelly. It doesn't mean that I think he's a hero, and it doesn't mean I think he's the greatest man of all time, because people died.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people that find him to be a hero forget about.
Very true.
So I got Stringy Bark Creek. We've talked about that before. Now, as I've said, because I'm telling these stories, I'm going off memory. Names are things that I'm forgetting. I know that some of the policemen, there was, I think, Scanlon and McIntyre, and there's someone else whose name I'm forgetting right now. So we've got these. They sent out multiple. Teams.
Yeah.
To
find
hunt for the Kellys.
Yeah.
And these guys set up in Stringy Bark Creek, thinking that they're far away from the action. And little do they know they're like a couple of 100 meters away from where the Kelly gang is hanging out. So two of the guys go off to catch some dinner, shoot a kangaroo maybe, and one of the guys is still back there, I think, tending to the horses and prepping for dinner. And the reason the boys find them, they think, is because they were shooting, they were trying to hunt for food. So the boys find it, locate where this thing is, and that's when the ambush begins. So Ned kind of turns up, says, "Throw up your arms," and all the boys kind of appear from out of the bush. They find out there's the two other policemen. Now, the boys weren't really armed. They had their guns, but they had they had hardly any ammunition. I don't even know if each of them had their own gun. So they were so lucky that they came across one policeman who was just hanging out doing, horses and cooking.
Yeah.
And so you've got that situation. The boys have some food. And they just chow down on on a nice meal, get themselves ready, take some police guns and that, hide back in the bush. Now, that policeman's job was to tell the other policemen that the Kellys were there. You need to surrender.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly those two guys didn't believe him in the first place. And they were like, "What are you fucking talking about?" And they just kind of rode in. Yeah. Then big boy Ned fucking stands up and they're like, "Oh shit."
He's actually here. Fuck.
Yeah, but the whole, it's a whole scene. One of them goes to surrender, but then one of them goes to shoot. And so Ned shoots him and it's a proper movie gunfight almost. People are getting shot. Horses are going crazy. The thing is that the policeman didn't have as good aim as Ned at that time because Ned's been practicing target shooting. He's got fuck all else to do.
Especially in the bush. They've been out there in the bush doing it. Yeah.
So they're there and they'll shoot and they'll miss Ned and then he'll shoot him. He shot one of them in the armpit, I think, and he did a couple of blows. Now, again, supposedly Ned talks about the fact that the reason that he shot one of the policemen in particular was because he'd already wounded him and he maintained that he was putting him out of his misery. Right. Because the guy was going to bleed out and probably die of infection anyway. It's not really the top time for medicine. True. So he maintains putting out his misery. So anyway, two policemen get killed at that time. One of the policemen gets away he's freaking the fuck out, obviously. He thinks the Kellys are after him. So he hides in a wombat hole.
Right.
And he hides there like overnight.
Right.
So the news of this situation doesn't actually reach the town until like a day or two later. Because this guy just fucking hides in a wombat hole. Because he's like,
freaking out.
This is crazy. And we also have to remember that at that time it was telegraph. Like it was all Morse code shit. And telegraph offices weren't open on Sundays. I don't even think they were open on weekends.
Right. So no one could find out.
Exactly. So a lot of the information doesn't actually get through anywhere till a Monday. Anyway, this sets off the manhunt.
Right.
Big manhunt.
Yep.
Now they get policemen, they get recruits in, they start like hiring new people, they get people in from different places and that. There's a bunch of interesting stories again in Black Snake that I hadn't heard before about how many times people were essentially... Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah, wow.
That's one of the biggest burps I've done on the show. People, they were like, the policemen were right on top of the Kellys.
Yeah.
They were right there. But sometimes they would actively not pursue a lead because that would mean that they would come face to face with the Kelly gang.
Right.
So you like imagine what we got to do is put ourselves in late 1800s Australia in the bush.
Yeah.
There's a man there who's built like a brick shit house with a big fucking beard. Mm-hmm. He's got 3 of his mates who are also probably, pretty ready to go you. If you come against them, they've already killed 2 policemen.
Yeah.
Like...
They're good shots.
Yeah.
Pretty intelligent.
You'd be scared.
Great on a horse, yeah.
So all these people are scared. And there's again, some stories about even some of the black trackers at the time, which we talked about the black trackers before. Those are the Indigenous Australians that policemen use to help them track using the abilities that they have in terms of bush knowledge.
Yeah.
And there's a little story in there where even the trackers were like, they went that way. Because they were like, we don't want to deal with this shit.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So like they could have been caught so many times. There are so many times. Or they would be like, someone would be like, oh, they're in this spot. And they'd be like, yeah, we better catch the train and go that way.
Yeah.
But we'll go where they are, but we'll just wait 2 days. There's no rush.
Let's go there as far away from them as possible.
So just the dumbest shit. And then we've got, obviously, so they're on the run now, harder to get supplies, harder to get food, harder to get money. So we've got the 2 bank robberies.
Yeah.
We've got Euroa and we've got Jerilderie.
Mm-hmm.
So Euroa involves a bit of planning.
Yeah.
The boys go in there. I will check some facts on those because I don't want to get the 2 of them mixed up, but they're both pretty interesting. Tim, share with the class one thing that you've learned so far from this podcast.
From what we're talking about today?
Yes, preferably.
I learned that you don't something.
Don't something.
Yeah. I don't listen. I've not been listening.
That's good.
Clearly.
Yeah, obviously.
No,
you're sitting there. You're sitting there very quietly as I talk very passionately.
The stuff about old mate, his little apprenticeship. I wonder if that was a government approved, whether he was paid a wage or whether it was like what the situation was there.
Yeah,
do you think I'd be able to get an apprenticeship as a bushranger now?
Well, I don't know. What skills do you offer?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. I don't have a single skill.
Right.
I need to get some skills. Girls like guys with skills, bow staff skills, nunchuck skills.
So, Euroa. They, in December, in 1878, they hold up a station. So a station being like, a farm for our listeners that, lots of stuff going on there. They hold up a station near Euroa. Mm-hmm. Now, the idea is this is going to be their base for the whole situation. So they hold up all the workers. That's a lot of people. And there's some people staying there. They kind of hold them up. They put them in a spot together and kind of hold them hostage, I guess. Some of the boys go and take down some of the telegraph poles so they can't get the communication out there. Right. Which, again, as we talked about before, some of this shit is just ingenious.
Yeah.
Like, it's just some smart shit that they do.
It's ahead of their time because you don't think about the fact that they did have telegraphs, and by doing that, they were making sure it's like the cutting the phone wire.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the equivalent of that age, yeah.
And, it's just, it's a smart thing. Anyway, so they do that. They hold up a station. I think they do that the day before they hold it up, so they prepare themselves.
Yeah.
And then they head down and they rob the bank.
Mm-hmm.
They again capture the bank employees and that, take them to the station. So it's a whole thing of them locking them there. Again, this is one of the times where people talk about the nature of the Kelly gang, not being brutal on their hostages, just kind of trying to entertain them, share stories with them, maybe show them some trick shooting or some trick riding or things like that, like
quite polite and friendly,
the gentlemanly side of the boys. And there's also so supposedly Dan was quite interested in fashion, they think, and was quite concerned with how he looked because he was a teenager, so he's concerned with how he looked. They reckon that he was the one that with the Greta mob, that he was the one that said that they should wear the strap under their nose rather than under the chin of their hat, which was one of their defining styles. But so there's, people are expecting these bushrangers to be, as we say, these scary, burly bushmen.
Yeah.
And they rock up and they're like neatly dressed gentlemen sometimes because they'll get a change of clothes and they'll put on some cologne or that. They'll really dress up for it. So anyway, they rob Euro, obviously. They don't get as much money as they want. They think there's going to be a lot more in the bank, but there's not as much there. So they take the money that they've got and they fuck off.
Right.
Now, they are pretty good at sharing their money.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll give it to family and friends and to the people that are helping them and informing them and stuff like that. So it doesn't last for a huge amount of time.
Right, okay.
And remember, one of the people on this list is our good friend, Aaron Sherritt.
Mm-hmm.
He was going out to Wombat Ranges a fair bit of the time. But anyway, so the money doesn't last very long. So then Jerilderie happens. Now, Jerilderie is a huge event because that's where the Jerilderie letter is written, which is like a 60-page letter or something like that. It's huge, scribed by Joe, because as we know, Joe is the educated one.
He's the smart one.
And Ned he's written a letter before, didn't really work. He wrote a letter, he wanted it to go to people, it didn't get there, it just kind of got into the hands of the police, and so the greater population didn't understand where they were coming from. So Jerilderie's, the letter, he's trying to explain why he's done everything, why he's, like, how long he's been persecuted for, why people have been shot, why he's so, like, it's explaining all this stuff and trying to show the injustices that he's been faced with. As we also found out from your bit of information, this is where they start talking about him trying to come up with the Northern
Republic? Victorian Republic area. Yeah, they actually, like I was talking to you before, I went to Melbourne Jail, like not last weekend, the weekend before, I think it was.
Yes.
With my younger sister. And they talk about his plans there, which was something that was kind of like, that was interesting. Because when we read about it, it was kind of like, oh, this might have been an idea, but they actually presented as pretty hard fact there at Melbourne Jail, that this was just something that they definitely wanted to do. They wanted to create their own little, in the north of Victoria, their own little state, I guess. At this time, this is pre-1901, so they're actually separate colonies.
Right.
At this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, so, the reason I found it, because I just seem to have missed that or forgotten about it in all the stuff.
Yeah.
But if I did forget about it, I now find it to be one of the most interesting parts of the story.
Yeah.
But so, as I said, Jerilderie, it was the second attempt. The first letter I just quickly read was called the Cameron letter.
Mm-hmm.
So he attempted that. He sent it to Donald Cameron, who was a member of the Victorian Parliament at the time. But he didn't do anything with it, kind of thing. Like, he just kept it. Okay. So with the Jerilderie letter, he was much more on top of it. So I think he gave it to the press. I think he had a couple of copies, so he sent it here and there. They didn't print the whole thing though. I don't think, because it was like that's a fucking book.
It's a long letter, yeah.
But it did get out there, and the original copy, it says here, was donated to the State Library of Victoria in 2000. And there's and Hanlon's transcript is held in Canberra National Museum of Australia. I don't know who Hanlon is. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing. If you have time and interest, read it, because one time I sat down and read it, and it is super interesting.
Right.
Like, it's really cool because you're reading this huge little thing that was written by a huge little thing. Have you written this huge thing?
Don't say it's huge.
That Ned's dictator. And again, the Jerilderie robbery. I think that I'm trying to remember. One of the robberies, supposedly, the bank manager had been out riding and had come back, and he went up to go a bath, and so like his attendant or whatever, his second in charge, goes upstairs and he's like, "Kind of need you to get out of the bath because the Kellys are here."
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, "No. I've been riding all day. I'm having a fucking bath."
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, but the Kellys are here.
Yeah.
And then I think Dan or someone rocks up with a gun. And it's like, yeah, no, the Kellys. They're like, you better come.
Get out of the fucking bath.
I'm super pissed about it. But again, so in Jerilderie, they had a pub that they'd taken and they had their hostages in the pub.
Yeah.
Buying a round of drinks. As soon as they rob the bank, buy everyone a round of drinks.
Yeah.
Like, they celebrate, they have fun. At one point, they steal some watches and things like that, but supposedly a couple of people were kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. And so Ned was like, all right, give them all back.
Well, no, there's the story of the bloke whose watch, it belonged to somebody. It was like important to him. So he was like, no, you got to give that back to that guy. You can't take that. That's not cool.
Again, and that's this thing where it's like they weren't necessarily heartless men that were just taking from people if it had something to them. Because
they took because they literally lived in the bush and they needed money to survive.
Ned Kelly, if we haven't mentioned it before, is basically a version of Australia's Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Steal from the rich, give to the needy kind of thing.
With death.
Yeah, with a bit more death.
With documented killings.
Yeah, with documented murder. But so it really happens, again, not as much money as they wanted kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was, again... Jerilderie or Euroa, that they even had it. They went to this town. Now, again, no social media, no real pictures of the boys in a way. People don't know what they look like. Yeah. So they go to this town. They hold up the jail. They put the two policemen in the town in a bloody jail cell. Steal their clothes. Get one of the policemen to give them a guided tour of the town. And so people think these are just new police recruits.
Right.
They don't realize it's the fucking Kelly gang riding around, pretending to be police. So again, just. It's such a weird thing to think about. If you think about right now...
That you would hear about these people but have no idea what they look like. You could be speaking to them on the corner and you would have no idea.
If you were as wanted as the Kellys in today's modern world...
Your face would be plastered everywhere.
You couldn't be in your own house without people knowing that it was you. You would just be seen.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that happens. In this time, we've also got the rising reward for the capture... Mm-hmm. Which we've talked about on the other podcast about the exorbitant amount that it becomes. Ends up being the £8,000 reward or whatever it is, I think, for the whole gang.
Yeah.
So £2,000 each or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's an enormous amount.
Which, in today's currency. There's also the thing that I always talk about, which I think is the craziest, one of the craziest things to happen is obviously the passing of the Felons Apprehension Act, which is the one where it's like you can shoot them dead and it's orgy.
Yeah.
Which is just so bad for human rights.
Essentially, the cops just getting pissed off that they weren't able to catch them.
Yeah.
From what the story you just said before, where some of the police they were bringing on were actively going in the opposite direction, it sounds like people were scared and that they preferred having the ability to just shoot at them and kill them than trying to catch them. Because they knew that they weren't able to. They just wanted to kill them.
I was going to say, it's the kill or be killed situation here.
Yeah.
So... we jump ahead to what I think you were alluding to before as the third big moment.
Yep.
Which is Glenrowan.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of Glenrowan supposedly is to hold everyone hostage until they release Ellen from jail, and Ned will give himself up.
Yeah.
Is part of the theory.
Because Ned's mum is still in jail at this point.
In jail this whole time. So so the thing that I also hammer into the kids, and we talked about before, Ellen has I think it's a 3 or 4 day old baby.
Yeah.
When she gets arrested the first time. So she's in her jail cell with a baby for I think it's a couple of days or a couple of weeks. She gets released and then it's 6 months or something until that trial happens. And then the trial happens and she gets sentenced to actually going to jail for X amount of time. Which is fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
You can't put a mother in jail with a baby in that time in those cells.
The cells are tiny as well.
And because breastfeeding was the thing. I don't know if they had bottles back then. She would have had to, otherwise the baby... Anyway, knucking futs. But so Ned's like, I'll give myself up if you let mum go free and everything will be fine. So he's going to hold these people hostage. Now, we talk a lot about the fact that they had fun. Again, trick riding, dancing, singing in Glenrowan, supposedly in the inn. But there are accounts of people being like they came over and they took over and it was scary and it was brutal. They've come in. Again, another ingenious moment, them pulling up the railway tracks.
Yes.
So that it would
potentially quite fucked up, but also ingenious. Yeah.
Well, I also forget about the fact the idea was that the police were actually on that train. They were meant to be going further than Glenrowan.
Right.
So I believe they pulled up the tracks after like Glenrowan Station and stuff like that. But because they got alerted to the fact that tracks were pulled up, I think that they just pulled into the station rather than going further and going to the... I think that's how that works, because otherwise I don't really understand how it works.
Right. Yeah, I was under the impression that was before then, that they'd done it at a random section in the track, so that when they came to Glenrowan,
But I think that, they were meant to be heading somewhere else.
Right.
But again, fucking ingenious.
Yes.
Pulling up the railway tracks.
Yeah.
And then we've got... Now, obviously, these are big moments, but I'm kind of glancing over them because we talked about them at length before.
We have.
But we get the boys putting on their armor.
Yes.
We have the whole battle. Like, Ned goes out there literally guns blazing, a gun in each hand, this fucking heavy armor that doesn't cover some very important parts.
Yeah.
And he just goes out there shoot. And, like, the guys, at times, because Ned appears at one point, he kind of ends up behind the police lines. The police are fucking scared because this is a big helmet, and like bullets are bouncing off this thing.
Yeah,
like it's horror
freaky.
Movie shit.
Yeah, it's freaky
at that time. Now they reckon that Ned was calling out around the house to see if the boys are in there because he hadn't seen them in a while. Because as I said, he goes outside, he kind of finds them. And he thought they had already fucked off.
Right.
So he was like, I'm going to get on a horse and get out of here. But because he was so injured and weighted down, he couldn't even get on his horse to ride away.
Yeah, right.
So he had to keep fighting and everything. So obviously we've got Ned gets taken down and everyone else dies on the scene. The rest of the Kellys die on the scene. We've got the Kelly gang die on the scene. So we've got the two boys lying next to each other there's the theory that they may have committed suicide. And then we've got...
Well, it burns down, doesn't it? So...
Yeah, and we've also got old mate getting shot in the groin and just going down.
Steve gets killed pretty early on. Yeah, from the way the story is told. Yeah, so
it's huge, and we've talked about the amount of bullets fired, and it's a crazy situation. And I think there was reporters I think snuck in that like reporters are on the scene of this as well, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But the thing that I've always found interesting is that across from like when you go to Glenrowan now, they've got all these little things along the way. There's a pub kind of across from where it all happened, and supposedly the sisters were there, like family members were there.
We're in
this other pub like across the road.
Actually, I remember reading that.
Which is horrific. They're watching their friends or family members get taken down.
Yeah.
Like, they were waiting for a cannon to come. Like, they were waiting for a cannon to come to blow it down until someone was like, let's just pour some fucking gasoline, kerosene or something on it, metho on it, and burn it down. When I found that out recently, and I was like, that's horrific.
Yeah, that's awful.
Now, we skipped over at the beginning. Ned once saved a kid from drowning.
Right.
Which I feel bad for not mentioning. So Ned saved a kid from drowning. Now, supposedly Ned was awarded a green and gold sash for this. The family organised for a sash because he'd saved this kid's life, and it was a huge deal. Supposedly, and you see this in one of the Ned Kelly movies, Ned was wearing it at the time of the Glenrowan siege.
Right.
And the big dog in charge at the time took that as a souvenir when he finally captured Ned. And so there are pictures of it. So I think it's a pretty true story.
Yeah.
But so Ned gets captured, carted off. Other boys, some of them get buried and we don't know where their remains are and all this kind of stuff. There's also a story that the guns were at one of the like libraries or museums or that like something like that. And eventually someone just threw them out. They were like, we don't need these. I'm just going to throw these guns.
Yeah, good.
I don't need these guns.
Yeah, right.
As we said before, the suits of armor are held by some different people in that. So then Ned goes to jail. There's a trial, of course. I don't know how much Ned says in the trial. I think you might just sit there and glare for a lot of it. And I think whether it was a fair trial or not, it's another story. He couldn't really afford a good lawyer.
No.
And so he's in jail now. He's not allowed to see anyone.
Yeah.
But in the women's prison,
yes, his mother is there.
His mum.
Yeah.
So Ellen's there, and there's actually a really nice piece in Black Snake, a really nice piece of fiction that's kind of her inner thoughts at the time. They're saying that she was in the washroom at the time washing clothes
when he
was hanged. And
it says that in the Melbourne jail. She was in like the next room, sort of washing clothes.
Super close. And she's saying, like, as I said, this bit of fiction, it's like, they're expecting me to fall down and cry at the time, and I'm not going to give them that satisfaction. I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to work, and I'll mourn in my own time, and blah, 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 blah. Brutal stuff.
Absolutely.
But the only person that they do let Ned see is Ellen. So they let Ellen and Ned see each other for a last time. And she hasn't seen Ned in ages. She hasn't seen Ned in like a year or 2 years. I'm like, it's been a while since she's seen her boy. Yeah. Who's now a bearded man. Mm-hmm. So yeah, on the 11th of November, 1880, Ned is hanged by the neck till death, as they used to always fucking say, the creepers.
Obviously.
And it's said that his last words were, "Such is life." There's been some conjecture on that, obviously, because multiple people heard different things. But that's what people have taken from it.
Right.
There is a wonderful thing in the Australiapedia, which we haven't referenced in a while, that they believe Ned Kelly's last words were actually, "Please don't let Mick Jagger play me in a movie."
Oh, right.
Which we'll talk about in a moment.
Fabulous.
So that is kind of Ned's life. I glanced over it. I didn't remember many of the names. I didn't give you too many dates. I told you, audience, my takings after years of reading and research, and I hope it was interesting enough for you. I'm sorry.
It was. It was great, and it leaves room open for people to go and watch the movies and read the many fucking books that are out there, both fictional and factual, about the Kellys and the Kelly gang.
Here's the thing. Don't complain about the facts I missed out. Go and find the exact details for yourself. Do the research. If you're that interested and that passionate about it, don't complain about it.
Yeah.
Do the research. Go on to A Guide to Australian Bushranging, which is Aidan's site, and we'll talk about him in a second. I think there's a site called Iron Outlaw that might have some information on there. Go on Wikipedia. Go on Google. Read the books. Read Black Snake. It's very short. I'm teaching it to year 7. Really
read
good.
Robert...
Robert Drew's
House
of Sunshine.
House of Sunshine.
Excellent.
Which is what the Ned Kelly movie
with Heath Ledger
is based on.
So
it's quite a good book as well.
There's 2 main movies that I think about when I think of Ned Kelly. Well, actually, there's 3. So the first motion picture ever was the Kelly Gang story.
Correct. Yes.
Which we've lost most of that footage, but I have seen some of it when I was
seen some of it in the
Canberra.
What is it? The film
radio film and.
Archive,
Archive. Anyway, super cool.
I've seen part of it. Yeah, it's quite good.
So we have that claim to the first motion picture, first feature film, but the main 2 is there was one made a while ago.
Right.
Now, when I sit down and I think, who am I going to get to play Ned Kelly? The first person that comes to my mind is Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, because a burly, over 6 foot tank of a man who spent a large majority of his life roping horses, doing hard labor, living in the bush, should be played by a drug-addled wasp of a man. Like
Jagger,
he is
wasp of a man.
He is.
It's nothing of it.
He is cocaine thin. Let's put it that way.
You can see through his skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mick Jagger plays him. Supposedly it's horrible. I haven't watched it. I've got it saved on my list upstairs because one day I will watch it.
It's probably just fucking awful.
The one that I quite like, as much as some people argue that, is the Ned Kelly movie with Heath Ledger.
Right.
It's Heath Ledger and Orlando Bloom plays Steve or Joe, I think.
Yeah, I think Bloom is in it.
He is in it. Yeah. So that's another movie. You've got Reckless Kelly with Yahoo Serious.
Yeah. Not quite the same thing.
No, you've got, was it? I think it was just called Ned, maybe, the one that had the guy from Always Greener in it, which was another comedy, a weird Australian comedy take on it. But the reason I keep talking about our friend Aidan from A Guide to Australian Bushranging is that he is making a movie.
Fantastic.
Making a fucking film with a guy that directed a film about Ben Hall. So another Australian bushranger, I believe. Ben Hall, is he?
Yeah.
Not Ben-Hur. Bigger than Ben Hall. So he's got a movie. It's called Glen Rowan.
Right,
so I think we talked about it when it came out, but he's making a movie and it sounds amazing. And I will be playing the role of Ned Kelly, which is not known at the moment to Aidan or anyone on the production team.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do the crew and the executives on that film know about that yet? Or
so they they announced someone else. But like, I think it's one of those like surprises. Actually, Leon Huxtable from Jäger Day, like one of those.
Yeah.
And Tim will be playing the role of horse number 1.
Yes. That one has been announced.
Yeah, that has been announced.
If you check my Instagram, I've talked about it a lot.
Tim's IMDb is horse number 1. No, we are actually hoping to be in it somehow.
Yeah.
I've been talking. Yeah. We've been talking with Aiden about it. And I will keep recommending checking out A Guide to Australian Bushranging. Aiden puts out some really good content, and he is a wealth of knowledge. So much so to the fact that when I talked about the bushranger in my family, Larry Cummins, he spouted a fact back at me about Larry and who he knew, and I was like, damn, son, number 1, Larry's famous. Number 2, you know about Larry. And if you know Larry, you know Larry.
Yeah, that's true.
So that'll
don't know Larry, that's for sure.
That'll be exciting. I've got to catch up with Aiden soon and talk about that film. Sidney
Fabulous.
Nolan did those iconic images of Ned.
Of course, yes. Yes.
And my biggest issue with the whole Ned Kelly story is the fact that the way that people represent him is by the helmet, because he wore it once.
Yes.
He wore it once, and it was his downfall.
It's it's the one thing people recognize easily as Ned.
Now, I think I took that from Dad. I think Dad used to get pissed off about people always being like, the helmet, because I think some people think he literally wore the helmet multiple times.
No.
Just once.
No.
No, you
It wasn't just him either.
No, all his mates.
Old Stevie had one.
As I said, to think about this, the fact that it's 2018, I was born in 92, and I have been interested in this man's life, and we're talking about it now, recording it in this modern way.
In this basement where we are.
In this basement.
Such insignificant
in the state
specks.
where he died, just 20 odd minutes away from the point that he died.
Yes.
It's very interesting stuff.
It is interesting.
And there's some really interesting stuff about the testing of bones and everything that happened with when they finally thought they found Ned's bones. Because again, unmarked grave, all that kind of stuff. They thought people would steal it, all this kind of shit. Got moved around, blah, 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 blah. And they had some stuff. Supposedly they thought his skull was just kept on someone's desk for a while as a paperweight kind of thing.
Right.
But to test the bones, they found this way to do it. I think they kind of pioneered a way to test DNA in a way. And they had to find a distant relative of Ned. And get his DNA and test it. So I think they did find some bones that were his, but I don't think the skull was.
Interesting.
So
someone still has it on their desk.
Someone still has it on their desk. But Ned Kelly, huge.
Neddy
boy.
What a story.
And taken on by a certain style of person in Australia as an icon next to their Eureka Stockade flag.
Yes.
They'll have Such Is Life. They might get it tattooed on the back of their neck.
Yeah.
They're a people.
They might be unnecessarily aggressive towards authority figures.
They may have
who've done nothing to them. It's interesting.
There may be blue singlets. There may be mullets. Yeah. They're a people.
Yes.
They're a people. But Tim, I think.
Yes.
Do you have something? Was it you?
I was just saying. No. I was going to say it's a lot more complicated than him being a hero or a villain, really, isn't it?
It is.
He did some heroic things.
Yep.
He certainly had some interesting ideas.
Yep.
About what he wanted the future to be, and we know the cops were not great.
Yep.
But he also did some things that weren't great either. So it's more complicated.
Yeah.
It's the old Snape situation in Harry.
He's
a hero, but he's also kind of a fucking asshole. It's the same situation.
They did base Snape on Ned Kelly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'd imagine Alan Rickman playing Ned Kelly rather than fucking Mick Jagger. Give it to me. It's massive. Go read about it. Go learn about it. Watch some movies. Everyone says something different. I have heard a story before in my family that my great-grandmother or my great-great-grandmother served Ned Kelly tea, and supposedly she used to tell us how it was. Lately, I've been asking my aunties about that, and they've got no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
So that's a thing.
Sounds to me like it was made up.
Never happened. But there was one thing I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was to go with the end of it. But that ties up our Kelly Gang series.
All of the Kellys done.
So we'll move back on to some other Bushranger now. But it was we led up to it. It was big.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed that. It's a long episode, which we knew it would be.
Yeah,
because
of course.
It's too big of a topic to
lot to talk about. Lot
glance
to
over.
Get through. And bloody well done with the facts, mate. No, you done good.
Yeah, facts. Conjecture.
No.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that history, as we know, is not always reliable when it's
Very
too far
true.
back, and documentation is interesting. So as
And
always, take
bias
everything.
and all of that thing.
Well, yeah.
those
So
things
everything's
as well.
with a grain of salt. But everything that I've said is 100% fact.
Yes.
Actually, don't read anything else.
And if any of his students are listening, these will be on the test.
This is all on the test. Well,
Yes.
they're going to know it because it all came from Black Snake. It's really good text, actually, because the kids are super interested. Tim,
Yes.
your beard looking mighty fine.
Oh, thank you.
It's looking Kelly-esque.
Kelly-esque.
Oh, that's a new name.
Yes.
How do you make your beard so Nedwood?
I have these wonderful products. I don't know if you're aware of them. It's called Bushrangers Brew.
Oh.
Are you aware of this?
Tim, I've heard the slogan is if it's not Bushrangers Brew, it's not Bushrangers Brew.
Oh, I thought it was if it's not Bushrangers Brew, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I use. I use the shampoo, oil, the balm. Myself, I've got Bunyip Dreaming in the oil and the shampoo-ish
And your
items.
balm.
And my balm is the Rum Rebellion. I do enjoy the good Rum Rebellion because it's cinnamony.
Yeah,
and I
it's
love
got-
that smell
It's got a
up
bit
in my...
of spice to it.
Up in my face, yeah.
Gets right in the nostrils, cleans them out.
You also use Bushrangers Brew, which is so weird because you didn't know what it was like 30 seconds ago.
No, and thanks for the compliment on my beard as well. So I use...
Your beard looks like shit.
Fuck you. I use Mystics in shampoo and oil. I don't use my balm as often. I've got some mustache wax. It's got mint in it. Smells delicious.
Oh, mint.
Just go on to Bushrangers Brew, www.bushrangersbrew.com. I've been using it for, I swear it's been like 5 years now. I've had it I think since I was share housing or maybe even before that.
Right.
So
Bit of a time.
it's been a long time. And it's great stuff, and Joel does a great job.
And if you use our little code, you get 25% off.
You do, and our code is YEAHGDAY, all caps, YEAHGDAY, yeah, good day. 25% off is huge. That's half of half, people. Now, don't think that's not half of half.
Accurate.
So get on to that. Tim, I got a dad advice for you.
Oh, you do have one. I was wondering if it was my turn or not. 'cause
No,
we
it's not.
We didn't
I've written a
discuss
list,
it
by the way.
before the episode.
See, now that Tim and I haven't been at home together, I wrote a list the other day, so he stopped having to work out.
Fantastic.
What do you mean? Did you say I had one or wrote one? Because
Oh, well, no.
you said
Usually
had.
we have a turn picking one out of the bunch that we get
writing
sent.
the reply to the person saying thank you, we've picked yours.
Correct,
Can we
yes.
use? Yeah, obviously.
Yes. Getting them to sign the release agreement so that we can use their name and details. Yeah.
Here is the dad advice.
Please go.
Dear Tim and Leon, my name is Andrew, and I currently live in Wales. I've been living here for a year now.
He lives inside of the Wales?
No, W-A-I.
Dad joke. Continue.
Tim, we're on a fucking clock. Wales. And I'm studying to be a marine biologist.
He does live inside Wales.
Yeah. As this is my first year of uni, I'm trying to make as many friends as possible. However, I struggle to start conversations with people I don't know. Do you have any good conversation starters? Thanks heaps, and I can't wait for the rumoured show in Swansea, Andrew.
Fantastic. Ooh, you're asking the wrong person here, Andrew.
You are asking some socially awkward at the best of times. Conversation starters. So you're at uni, it's your first year. You're in a country that is not your own.
I barely know how to start conversations with people I do know, let alone people I don't. Look, from what I've read, it's important to always look people in the eye unblinkingly and to address them
Especially
in a
if they look
very
away.
loud voice. You need to say it. You're not yelling, but you're not yelling.
It's got to be assertive.
Yes.
And the modern world, it's fast paced. So don't bother with small talk. No, don't say hello. Don't ask how are you.
Skip the nonsense.
Go in there with something.
Ask them.
I like your shirt.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Very aggressively.
I like the green of your jumper,
Yeah.
as our mate from
friend from Queer Eye says that.
did, which was just one of the most awkward
I
conversations
would
I've
also
ever seen.
like to own those shoes.
Yes.
Where did you purchase them?
Yeah.
Can I buy them off you?
Yeah. How old were your parents when they met? That's a good opener.
Have you worked out the exact date when your parents had sex to make you?
Yes.
Which is called conception. That's the word I was missing there.
Is your sister a virgin? Is
Jesus.
that too much? Pull it back. Pull it back.
Pull it back.
No, the joke's gone too far now, hasn't it?
Tim and I haven't done an hour episode in a while, so
Yeah.
it's
gone
getting
too
rough.
far, hasn't it?
You could also, hey, Andrew, how are you at juggling?
Yes.
Now, great icebreaker. Start juggling, and the best form of juggling is contact juggling.
Yes.
Get your crystal ball, roll it around your hands and stuff, roll it up your arms, maybe
yeah.
roll it across their arms. Then you're in some physical contact
Yeah.
with the person.
It's very important to appear like it's 2010.
Oh, yeah.
So always have one of those glass balls and do
Well,
that. Yeah.
obviously, if contact juggling fails you, just pull out your hacky sack. Like that's obviously the way to go.
No, a good hack is always the best way.
Everyone
to
loves a good
make
sack.
friends. Yeah.
Do you know magic?
Yeah.
Do you know any magic? I've been
The
thinking.
gathering, not.
Yeah, magic. Yeah, can you just walk up there and be like, "I'm putting down 1 mana,"
Yes.
and then it's the conversation they'll pull out. I've been watching a lot of Penn and Teller Fool Us at the moment. I'm thinking about learning some magic because I can.
I think if I was to boil down my advice to Andrew in kind of one brief phrase, it would be: don't be yourself. Be who you think they want you to be.
Oh yeah, never
Be
yourself.
prepared to abandon your own beliefs to be accepted by your peers. That's I've always maintained, that you've got to be ready to just let go of yourself.
Oh god, yeah.
In pursuit of what other people think of you and society's values. Just
If your new
you
friends,
are very unimportant.
If your new friends find out anything about you personally, you failed.
Yes,
You failed the test.
absolutely.
No, go be yourself, mate.
Yeah.
I would recommend wearing t-shirts with things that people like on it, like a Bob's Burgers shirt or a Wayne's World shirt,
And obnoxiously pointed out to people as well.
Yeah,
Like,
and then-
this is Wayne's.
yeah, this
world.
is and put that
Yeah.
intonation on it. This is Wayne's
World.
world.
This is Wayne's world. Yeah.
Do that. Maybe wear some brightly coloured bands. Get a hat. Get a fun hat.
Yeah. Peacocking, I believe it's called.
Yeah. Don't wear shoes around you. And you're like, I used to ride a scooter, ride a skateboard. Wait, now I'm just telling you my life.
Gross.
Yeah, just go. The best thing is that you're in Wales and you're Australian, so just go in there and say, "Yeah, g'day, mate," and they'll say, "Get the fuck away from me."
They will. I actually know nothing about Welsh people.
I've been to Wales.
Ah.
It's nice. Don't mind it. Most people don't like it. I don't mind it. Tim, let's wrap up this huge, iconic, infamous episode
Yes.
of
yes,
a
yes.
huge, iconic, infamous person. The episode itself is now part of the history.
Yes, it's part of the
law.
corpus.
The what? The corpus?
The body. Is that something?
There's no corpses around here, mate.
Yeah.
I told you.
Well, not that you're aware of.
Uh-oh. Get out. Thanks, everyone, for...
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Aidan for chatting with me about bushrangers. Thank you, listener, and Tim for letting me just kind of talk about Ned Kelly without having some hard facts. Don't worry, next week we'll go back to our regular programming where Tim provides actual facts.
Yes.
We've had some fun. Thank you for listening to all the Kelly episodes. They've been well received.
Listen to them all in a row.
Yeah, listen to them backwards.
Yeah. There are secret messages in these episodes.
Yeah. I think what you said was Leon doesn't do facts well. We started and ended with Leon doing facts and
No,
they
no,
both
no,
went
no.
horribly.
That was my Japanese. I'm not very good at
Oh,
it.
yeah, you're horrible at it. So thanks for listening. Ned Kelly, big deal. Read about it. Learn about it. Love it. And do all those things. And get ready for Glenn Rowan to come out and see Tim and I in the leading roles of Horse Number 1 and Ned Kelly's beard.
Yes.
Just a little
Yeah.
specifically. Thanks as always to Teylor Smirl for our wonderful cover art.
And to Curtis Fernance for our introduction and outroduction music. Cheers, bud.
Yeah, no, good on you, mate. Thanks for listening. Share it with your friends. Get on Patreon. We released our episode about visors. We went for a visor episode. We talked for 20 minutes about visors, which is impressive.
Yes. We're trying to get the word out, so...
And if anyone knows where I can get some plastic visors where I can order 50 or less, That'd be tops.
Yeah, the visor business is a bulk business. Nobody's selling individual visors. You buy them in bulk or you don't buy them at all.
So far, the cheapest is I think it's 80 cents for, and you got to buy 250.
Yeah.
I'm not made of money.
No.
But
it's a big business.
But I really want a visor now.
Yeah.
So yeah, do that and follow the social media things and do the stuff and then keep doing that and yeah. G'day.
Cheers, buddy.
As always, yeah, g'day, Tim.
Yeah, g'day, Leon.
Yeah, g'day, everyone.
Yeah, g'day, everyone. Catch you on the flippity flop.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.